Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here in this cold night for some, warm night for others. So everybody is a little bit different, but it's a winter night. Pretty much, is it winter? Yeah, it's winter. So thank you very much for being here in person. Thank you for those watching us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And so tonight we are here for another Allan Kardec study meeting. First of all, let's advertise our Festa Junina, our Brazilian winter party that's coming up in exactly 11 days, so it's really soon. We selling the tickets, we sold almost 100 tickets so far. So if you want to guarantee that you'll be able to be there, please buy your ticket as soon as possible. So pre-sale is only $5. Door sale we'll do if we have spare tickets. Otherwise, unfortunately, it will be only the pre-sale. And so it's happening on the 19th of June. It's a Sunday at the beautiful place Brazilian Cafe in Albany from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And there'll be lots of delicious foods, music, games, dance. It's a family party, so you can bring your kids. We don't serve alcohol. It's no alcohol at all. So it's very suitable for the family and very fun day. Um, so everybody is welcome. Many of you know already, and if you haven't been yet, that would be a great opportunity. Oh, yeah, and so some things there will be, we only take cash for some of the products that we'll be selling on the day. So it'd be good to bring some cash so you can enjoy. Otherwise, there is Apple's machine nearby, so you can get the money there. Cool. So this is the news that we have for tonight. We can probably move on to our inspirational reading. And I'll ask Tulum to do the reading for us, please.
Living Spring, item 17, Christ in us. The Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias?
Ananias? I'm not so sure.
And he answered, Here I am, Lord. Acts 9:10. Men and women wait for Jesus, and Jesus waits for them. Do not think that the word can be redeemed unless souls are redeemed. In order to spread the submitted of his plans of salvation, the Master needs human hands to accomplish and strengthen it. He began his ministry by calling on the help of Peter and Andrew, and then he completed his group of 12 companions to initiate the work of planetary regeneration. And ever since the first day of the good news, he has invited, called, and asked for souls to come together in order to become instruments of his divine will, showing us that although redemption does come from Most High, it will not materialize without the active collaboration of hearts of goodwill. Even when he comes in person to ask someone to work in his field of light, as was the case in Paul's conversion, the Master still needs the collaboration of incarnated workers. After visiting the doctor from Tarsus, Jesus immediately went to Ananias and sent him to assist the new disciple. Why was Jesus not concerned about following the new convert and assisting him in person? It was because if men and women cannot become spiritually illuminated and progress without Christ, by the same token, Christ cannot do without men and women in the work of uplifting and subliming the word. Go and preach. Behold, I send you. Shine your light before men. The harvest is great, but the harvesters are few. Such a statement by the Lord shows the importance he places on the human contribution. Let us love and work, purifying and serving always. Whatever follow of the gospel is, that person should be a messenger from heavenly friend for the anointing work of God, of good. Christianity means Christ in us.
Thank you, Tokum. So, Andrea, can you please do the visual prayers? Thank you.
Let's close our eyes, calm our hearts, take a deep breath. Dear God, lovely Master Jesus, we'd like to thank you for this opportunity to be here to learn a little bit about your teachings. We'd like to thank you for believing us so we can spread your words, your knowledge, and to be able to work with you in this world. We'd like to ask that the good spirits bless us today, and then we are inspired with good thoughts and be able to help each other during this 1 hour of study. Stay with us always. So be it.
So good. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. So let's start our study of tonight. On Gospel according to Spiritism, we are in chapter 24. Do not hide your... Yeah, I got it right now. Initially, it said chapter 14. I never know the numbers. I always get a bit confused, but that's 24. I think my friend here told me. Do not hide your lamp under a bushel. So we have been studying this chapter for a while, for a little bit actually. And does anybody would like to comment on the previous lessons? Tonight's lessons is the, well, do not need a doctor. But we had the others before.
I can comment.
Thank you.
We had studied the analogy of the lamp under a bushel, where it's pretty much the lamp, the light related to our spirituality, and how we should not cover the with our bad habits. And we should always lift it up higher so we can bring a light and illuminate others, giving enlightening and knowledge for more and intellectual growth to our brothers and sisters. We also talk about why Jesus speaks in parables, which reminded us that his idea was to reach every single person, no matter the level of knowledge or intellectual. He could speak directly and use advanced terminology, but he will not reach the mass. So that's one of the reasons why he speaks in parables, because potentially they're not in a certain level of intellectual understanding yet. So he did the most simple way as possible, and it's very effective as we're still discussing that to this day. And on the last one, we did talk about the do not go to Gentiles, meaning the pagans on that time, where it was people who had different beliefs than Christianity, and Jesus told the apostles not to waste time with them. Instead of going and fighting and arguing and trying to convince them other ways, just go for those that spirit is still light and has not learned a lot yet. It will be much easier to press the message of Christ across and help them grow, and just give time to the other ones. And when the time is right, they will see it, they will understand what they have to.
Thank you. That's really good. Anyone else? It was a good summary. Thank you, Tugu. So now we need someone's help to please read for us. Any volunteers?
I can read.
Thank you.
The help of not the doctor. While Jesus was a clinical in the home of this man, Matthew, many publicans and sinners came to join Jesus and his disciples. Upon seeing this, the Pharisees said to his disciples, "Why does your master eat with publicans and sinners?" But upon overhearing them, Jesus answered, "The healthy do not need a doctor, but the sick." Matthew 9, chapter 9, verses 8 to 12. Jesus addressed mainly the poor and disinherited because they were the ones in greatest need of consolation, and the blind of good faith and humility because they asked to see, and not the proud who believed they possessed the full light and were in need of nothing. See the introduction, publicans and tax collectors. These words, like so many others, find their application in Spiritism. Sometimes people wonder why mediumship is granted to the unworthy, persons capable of making bad use of it. It seems, they say, that a faculty this valuable should be exclusive attribute of those of great merit. Let us first state that mediumship is connected to an organic disposition which any person may be endowed, just as that of seeing, hearing, and speaking. People are capable of abusing any of them through their free will, and if God had granted speech, for example, only to those who are incapable of saying bad things, there will be more than mute than speaking individuals. God has given faculties to humans and leaves them free to use them. However, He always punishes those who abuse them. If the ability to communicate with the spirits is granted only to the most worthy, who would dare to claim this quality? Moreover, where is the line between being worthy and being unworthy? Mediumship is given without distinction so that spirits may bring the light to all ranks, all classes of society, to the rich as well as to the poor, to the wise, to strengthen them in God, and the good, and to the corrupt, in order to correct them. Are not those there the sick who in need of a doctor? Why would God, who does not want the death of sinners, deprive them of help that could pull them from the mire? Good spirits does come to help them in their counsels, which they receive directly. Of nature, they will impress them more strongly than if they receive them by different means, in order to save them the trouble of having to go far in search of light. The benevolent God places in their hands, are they not even guiltier if they do not consider it? Could they excuse themselves for lack of knowledge when they have written with their own hands, seen with their own eyes, heard with their own ears, and spoke with their own mouth, their own condemnation? If they do not take advantage of it, they will be punished with the laws of perversion of their faculty, with evil spirits taking hold of them in order to obsess and deceive them. This will not lessen the real afflictions with which God smites unworthy servants and hearts hardened by pride and selfishness. Mediumship does not necessarily imply habitual communication with higher order spirits. It is simply an aptitude that serves as a more flexible or less flexible instrument for spirits in general. Hence, good mediums are not those who communicate easily, but those who are attuned to good spirits and who are helped only by them. It is solely in this sense that the excellence of the moral qualities has completed power over mediumship.
Thank you. So we don't have the passing the pen technique at the moment, just because we don't want to spread anything. So we just invisible pen and always start with the person that did the reading. Would you like to make any comments, Renata?
Yeah, there's quite a lot to go through in this chapter. So Jesus, I'm sorry if there's any angels here, any high, spirits here. I'm so sorry but yeah, but He came for the most of us because we are the sick ones that need His help. If we didn't need His help, He wouldn't have come to this world. So, and by eating and sharing a public space with publicans and seniors back then the, in the age of where there was a lot of, what do you say, there was a lot of, well, back then the costumes are different, right? So it would be unacceptable for a pure doctor of the law, a Pharisee, to be seen as a pure, higher, superior person of God, mixing themselves with those people because they were, unworthy. But Jesus come to show us he didn't come for those who are claiming to be saved. He came for those who need help. And the chapter goes on talking about how, if you can go to the next slide, if you don't mind, please. So, and he's making an analogy with mediumship not being granted to just those who are, pure and have, higher quality than the others. It's a faculty just like any other. So it's a six things. You can. I found very interesting when the text comments on Kardec talks about that's a faculty just like hearing and seeing. And can we imagine if God only gives the speech for those who can speak now?
Not many people speak.
Yeah, we'll probably all have no tongues. So it's very interesting how he goes on developing the idea that it's not a punishment, to I think that goes to the other page. Yeah, so we're talking about punishment. I think punishment is more a language that was used back in Kardec era. I think it's more likely to be these days. Lessons to be learned, likely to be instead of punishment, because God doesn't punish us, right? We learn lessons. So God is love. So there is no punishment. So I was listening to a lecture by Haroldo Dutra Dias now, and he was actually talking about this, that there is no punishment, but we learn with lessons. So what's punishment? It's a broad term. What's punishment for me might not be punishment for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's quite a bit to consider in this chapter. And mediumship, it's still being considered as a taboo at the moment. But we know that this is not always going to be like this. It's going to be a faculty just like any other when we have the capacity to understand that further ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's really good summary. Andre, anything that got your attention?
Yeah, so it's saying that Jesus said that he came for the sick, almost of people, because we know that we are in a world of trials and expiations, and we can say for sure that the majority is needed. So we still are not evolved spirits. We need to learn. We need to go through the trials. We need to expiate our faults. And that's why we are here at this moment learning, because we need to hear those words to apply on our days, on a daily basis. We need to always remember that, going a little bit back with the inspirational reading, saying that God needs us, or Jesus needs us to help to make the world a better place, because it's not the world itself that's going to go from trial expiation to regeneration. We need to be constantly working, constantly getting better to get to that point. If you don't do our part, no one will. So they need us to move together so we can make the planet a better place. And like the previous reading, Jesus needs us the same way that we need Jesus. So the Christianity, I thought that was a really good thing. That means Christ and us, and I think it means just like complement what we been seeing here. And just regarding the mediumship, I just want to add, it is a really good opportunity if you have that talent or these tools, let's say.
Faculty.
Faculty, thank you. I am reading the Mansellers, and it's really interesting because in the beginning, André Luiz in this book talks a lot with people that have been, that was mediums back in the earth and they failed, and they were explaining all the possibilities that they were given, and unfortunately they didn't succeed. And the mediumship is like a faculty that can make you evolve really fast because it can allow you to help a lot of people in a short period of time. So usually, if you are planning your reincarnation and said, "Oh, I really want to get better. I need to get better a lot in this opportunity, in this reincarnation, so I can catch up with my loved ones," they say, "Okay, you have this opportunity. It's risky because you can fall if you're not ready, or if you don't pay attention of the signs and you're not aligned or you're not connected with the good spirits." But it is a really, really good faculty or tool to get you to the place that you want to be faster. So I see that mediumship, it is difficult, it's not easy. There are a lot of trials in this path, but it is something really good if you can make the good decisions, follow the right path, and you'll be end up helping a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Any comments? Yeah, just to add on what you both said already, I just find every time we read about Jesus, we tend to say we should follow Jesus' example. He's our model, he is our best example. And here, the example that's given here is really Jesus being near those that need the most. In our lives, sometimes it's harder to be near those that need the most, because when someone is suffering, that affects us as well. And sometimes we may say, "Oh, I don't want to be near that person. I don't want to be helping that person. I prefer to be with people that are good already, people that are not, doesn't need my help that much." So it's a really important lesson for us that we need to be those near those that need the most, and not always we are able to, but we need to make an effort to do that and follow. Of course, for Jesus that was easy because we can't even compare ourselves with Jesus, but to really be aware and every opportunity that we have to help, every opportunity that we have to listen, to give some comfort, to do some, to have some compassion, we need to use those opportunities in our daily lives.
It reminds me of when Givaldo met Chico, and he was amazed by Chico's knowledge and morals and all the good qualities he had. And he asked, "Can I stay here? Can I stay with you a little bit longer? There's so much to learn." And Chico says, "You can, but we are just like the lamps up high. If we in one place, we're gonna bring some light, but if we separate, we're gonna bring light to more people. If we're in different places, the light will reach more people. So just like a pole in the street, you don't put one next to another because there is already light in it. It gets stronger, but there's light. But if you put it somewhere where it's really dark, it will make a lot of difference." So it is something for us to reflect when he says, and the analogy, the well do not need a doctor, but the sick. Just like you guys mentioned. And sometimes the well don't even know, they think they are health, but they're not health, right? They just think they are. And so you can't help those who do not want to be helped, right? You cannot teach someone that already knows everything. What is the point? And like all of you mentioned, If we hear, there is a reason. If we hear, because we need to learn. There is a point here in the text where it says, see introduction for the publicans. So they were just tax collectors back in the day. I don't know if you guys have heard that there are phrase greed as a publican or rich as a publican. They were pretty much people who look after the money. The tax collector will be those people who knock the houses and take the money from the poor people and give it to them. So they just get richer and richer and richer, extracting from the poor ones. So obviously it's a dishonest wealthness, right? So today, if you call someone a publican, rich as a publican, it's something offensive because it has a denotative of offending someone as it means someone who actually got what they have by abusing of others, right? And that relates really well. I found really interesting where it says mediumship is connected to an organic disposition, and the analogy is just great, right? Imagine if, like you guys say, imagine if you only give the power of speaking to those who will speak pure things, who will speak good things. If you only give hands for those who build things, if you know all those people who have guns, they will not have hands, or the legs, or etc. So all the organic qualities that we have, the organisms that we have, obviously have been selected for the mission, for the challenge, for the expiations and trials that we have here on earth. Sometimes people say, "Oh, but someone is really rich. They don't have any problem. They don't have to worry about anything." Trust me, that the challenge is also there, and it's probably really, really hard. How are they going to become good if they never suffer? How are they going to become good? Well, I mean, on the, what we can see, right, on the financial way, but they obviously have inside their minds they will have troubles. Inside their heart they will have troubles. So it's like they say, the neighbor's green, the neighbor's garden is always greener than yours, or something like that. But that's never the case, right? They all gonna have different suffering. They all gonna have different trials and expiations, right? What else? Yeah, I think it's interesting how we have had many examples of mediumship being used wrongly, right? Misguided other people. And again, this is just part of it. This is just part of the trial stations that we have here. And like the Lily Spring said, it's about us having the courage of actually following, being good. Being good is not going to come for free. I think we studied a couple of weeks ago that it's like Jesus initiated a war. And when we started to understand that, it wasn't strength morals. Yeah, because it is a battle for us to be good. It is a battle for you to continue looking after your morals and intellectual. You can't just change who you are because someone doesn't like you, someone is mocking you. Just do good. You don't have to, show off about it. You just do good. Like Andrea says, it's all about collectiveness, right? We need Jesus. He will need us for the mission of this planet. And if we don't go all together, then we potentially shouldn't even be here, right? Cool.
Thank you. You just mentioned courage, right?
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah,
yeah, you were. Any more comments on that? Otherwise, we can raise a bit more. Would you like to keep raising, Renata, or do you want someone else to take over? Oh, thank you.
The courage of faith. Everyone who confesses me and acknowledges me before men, I will acknowledge and confess before my Father who is in heaven. And anyone who denies me before men, I will deny them before my Father who is in heaven. Matthew chapter 10, verses 32 to 33. If anyone is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory and in his glory of his Father and all the holy angels. Luke 9:26. Courage of opinion has always been held in great esteem by humankind because there is merit in facing the danger, persecution, opposition, and even the simple sarcasm to which are exposed to those who are not afraid to loudly profess ideas that are not the same as everybody else's. Here, as in everything, the merit depends on the circumstances and the importance of those results. There is always weakness in recoiling from the consequences of one's opinions and in denying them. But there are cases where it is a cowardice as great as that of fleeing the moment of combat. Jesus condemns such cowardice from the special point of view of his doctrine, saying that if anyone is ashamed of his words, he will be ashamed of him or her, that he will deny those who have denied him, that those who confess him before others, he will acknowledge before his Father who is in heaven. In other words, those who are afraid to confess that they are disciples of the truth are not worthy of being admitted into the kingdom of the truth. They will lose the benefit of faith because it is a selfish faith that they keep to themselves, and which they hide out of fear that it might bring them harm in this world. Whereas those who place in the truth above their own material interests and proclaiming it openly work simultaneously for their own future and the future of others. It will be the same for the followers of Spiritism, since its doctrine is nothing other than development and application of the gospel. Christ's words are addressed to them as well. They sow on earth that they will reap in spirit life. There, they will reap the fruits of the courage of the witness, or their witness.
Thank you, Renata. Would you like to make comments?
I think that's a reflection for us to understand that it's not always acknowledging Jesus verbally, but mainly in actions and our our daily lives, really. He gave his life as an example of everything he said, he exemplified. So he did not only speak, but his life was a true example of Christianism. So there is a philosopher who say Christianism is not a religion, it's a way of life. So, and the same is applicable to Spiritism for followers of Spiritism that believe that it became more an intellectual thing for some, and that's André Trigueiro actually, he speaks about this quite openly, and I think it's good for us to reflect on those words. And Kardec very wisely, if you could, is that okay if you can, and he's quite openly saying that some people are quite open about their opinions and they are quite loud about those opinions, you know. And there are consequences on and put your opinion out there without having any fundament for what you're saying. And there is a passage that the Kardec mentions that why there is so much, why there is the predominance, or that's in the Spiritism book, why there is the predominance of evil in this world is because good is shy. You know, because if we were here only talking about the things that are good for us and for others, but doing them as well, the same way that people voice their opinions in a negative way, you know, probably outweigh that. But I think this probably have a broader meaning than what I can think about right now, but this is what comes to my mind.
Thank you, Renata.
So I think we've been studying on the spirits book about the influence of the spirits in our life, and I think that's there is some relationship with the part of the gospel, and it is really interesting that here in our reading studies, we can be good people, we can do good, we can have good thoughts, we can say that, okay, we believe in Christ, I believe in Christ, or we are going to be doing good. But once we get outside and we don't have the influence of these good spirits that are around us, and we start like on the traffic, or when we are like in a not a good situation in work, or you're talking with your colleagues about your boss that's not so good, and then you start saying things that doesn't geez, I don't know that. Yeah, it's not the same as your behaviors here inside the spiritism group. So I think the courage of faith is to behave the same way that you behave here, everywhere, with all different kinds of people. So if you're in a situation that you know that's wrong, you don't need to go with that people that's doing that wrong thing. You need to be aware, okay, now you can go, I'm not going to condemn you, you can go, I will stay here because I don't want to be part of it, or I'm going to stop talking to you right now because I don't want to say bad things about our boss. He's trying to do her best, or he's best, he's in the same position as we are, and we need to understand that probably there is a boss on top of the boss, so it's always like that. So, and then we have to make a way of trying to show our faith, or the courage to show that faith among everyone. And I think that's why I say that you need to be the same everywhere. So we don't kind of like using masks. So now I'm going to be put my mask to go to the spirit meeting. Now I'm going to put the mask to go to work, and you will behave like different way. And it's funny because if you have like a person that knows you in like the Andreas from work and Andreas from the spirit group, they will see like two different persons. So I don't know, that's not like we're supposed to be. We need to be always one, and always showing our beliefs, showing our what we learn here.
Thank you. Jenny? Yeah, it's challenging, isn't it? It's very challenging for us to keep that faith, to have that faith in our minds, to have that faith rationally, is to actually act as we have faith, as you were saying. And sometimes also the challenge will be that whatever we are, we have to go against what the majority is doing. So many times could be at work or in a group, everybody's doing gossip or talking bad things. We always say it's the boss, eh? I don't know why, but complaining about the boss. And then for us, but it's not like that. It's pretty hard, isn't it? If everybody's going one way, our tendency is to, yeah, that's right, that's to reinforce that rather than say, no, come on, maybe there are other aspects we have to consider. So it's not like that. So that's the courage as well, to speak up and to say what we think rather than just go and follow the mass or follow what's going on. We can see that a lot nowadays, especially in social media, when someone say something bad about someone else, and then lots of other people just keep following the trends and just intensifying that negativity. So because we have the knowledge, we know a little bit, we have to go against that and prove our faith everywhere we are, everywhere we go. And it's not about trying to convince others about Spiritism, as we saw even in the other chapters. Don't go to the Gentiles, don't go to those trying to convince them. Not that we can be among them, we can be, of course, helping them, but not trying to convince. Our main mission is to convince ourselves to do better, ourselves to prove our faith, and to act, try to imitate Jesus in everything that he did. That's the everyday challenge.
Emmanuel says that one of the best goals that spiritists can have is apply the gospel to themselves. Right? At the end of the day, we are a spirit. So if you help the spirit, that's a good start already. And yeah, we do have to always have the courage for keep our faith. That definitely does not mean knocking people's door on Sunday morning and, at 5 a.m.
Especially
6 a.m.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, do not knock
It's not
people's
Christian.
door for trying to share it, but it's your behavior. It's that temptation that comes around you. Like you guys mentioned, a meeting like this, a time where you study, this is the food for your spirit. And you are only good as what you're going to do the next 24 hours after that. Just like you go to the gym, this is the pre-workout time. It's when you're saving energy. You're only good as the workout you're going to do after, the exercise you're going to do after, right? We all raise our vibration in here, but like Andrea says, if you go outside and something disturbs you, you have to remember where you stand. Very often, when I'm very concentrated studying and I finish at home, my flatmate, hope it's not listening, my flatmate always come in, he starts a very random subject about some news, and I always go like, calm down. Now is not the time. You don't take a deep breath. And if you think about it, we are studying the Spirit's book about the influence of the Spirit around us. And sometimes you're in a good vibration, and the Spirit, the bad spirits, or brothers that are not so evolved yet, they try to reach you, but they can't. So they reach the person next to you and make that person torment you.
Yeah.
And take someone cutting in the traffic, someone doing something that really triggers you. And that's when it's tested, right? You apply. That knowledge that's inside you, you apply to the outside. That shows who you are. If you just have a knowledge that's inside you and you're not using it, you just cover the land, right? You just put the little basket on top of the land. Now the light is going nowhere, correct? Like Andrea mentioned, and we're always talking about this, and I love mentioning that. If you just not do bad, does not mean you're doing good. You are doing nothing, right? If you just sit there, I'm not doing bad, so I'm doing it. Well, you're not. You're doing nothing. You know, you are a fig tree. Was that a fig tree that does not give figs?
Yeah.
Was a part of the reading? So cut it. Jesus says, cut it off. If it's not doing what it should, just cut it off, right? It is interesting that this courage of faith comes right after we talk about mediumship and the qualities and things that we come with here on earth so we can do good. Just look, all of you. You can talk. You can talk more than one language. You have hands, you have your feet, you have your mind, you have your brilliant way of thinking. You have everything you need to do a lot of good, right? We always talk about people who say, oh, if I win the lotto, the first thing I'm going to do is help in charity. That's always the first thing they say, right? And I say, well, if you're that good, why don't you help right now? Go knock to the charity door and say, is there something I can do? They're going to give you a mop and say, yes, can you mop the floors? There you go, you're doing good. You do not need millions and millions of dollars, but it's not about quantity. We can't quantify that, right? We talked about that. You can't really quantify. You have to be true. The way you help others, the way you express from the inside to the outside has always to be honest. It's never the outside to the inside. That's when you're trying to show off, and that's when it's not gonna work. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Any final comments about that? Awesome. Thank you guys for the comments. Really nice, and let's keep
We stop here.
working on our faith. Will be item 17 for next week.
Chapter
24. Now I know.
8, item
Always get
17.
confused.
Spirits are here, so just keep going.
Yeah, will be after. Yes,
Yes.
so we move on to the Spirits book, which would be in that chapter that you guys mentioned before, the intervention of spirits in the corporeal world.
Chapter
I'm
9.
going through a few things there. Does anybody would like to make a recap or some comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't here last week, but we've been
Okay.
studying this chapter for a
Or a
while.
little, yeah, just a little.
Yeah, and I think it's talking about the influence of spirits in our lives.
Mhm.
And the first question, or not the first, but one of the first questions, saying that okay, they influence us all the time in anything. So, like Toby said, sometimes if you're not available at the moment, or you're not in the right
Vibration.
vibration. Thank you. And they will try to influence people around you to try to change your mind or change your behavior. Try and they are different levels as well. And we've been studying, so we talked about the possessed, and we talked about the influence about our thoughts and actions up to each level it goes. And I think that's it.
Yeah, just a couple of things to complement. Um, we talk a lot about the influence of spirits, and like Andrea says, your vibration, well, it's not really right or wrong. If it's low, you connect with the lowest spirits. If it's high, you connect with the higher ones. If it's halfway there, you connect with the halfway there, and so be it. We did talk about possession the last time, and how two spirits cannot be in the same body. Your spirit is assigned to your body, so another one will not take over. However, depending on your level of weakness, that spirit can influence you a lot and can be way more than your own actions. And that's what the closest we're gonna get of like a possession on that meaning. And we also talk about it a lot how you avoid those things to happen, how you avoid those so-called bad spirits, like they mentioned in the book. Just let's evolve, brothers and sisters. They're not necessarily creating bad, just doing bad. Um, it's by doing good. It's by keeping your vibration high, and this is exactly what we just talked about it before. It's praying in the morning. It's keeping your habit. Guilherme said once a very smart sentence where it says, "Every good character that you have it now, it was a discipline at once." So the habit, the discipline of doing the good thing every day, a prayer in the morning, assessment like Saint Augustine mentioned to us before you go bed. They're doing good. They stop having a deep breath before you answer something that could not potentially be very positive. Those are all habits that, with the discipline, that will just become who you are. That will just become your natural self, and that's how you will increase your morals. It's by trying it. You don't wake up and say, "Oh, now I'm never gonna swear again." It's not that easy, right? If it was that easy, we won't need the doctor. We'll be healthy already, right? Cool.
Oh, thank you. Very good summary. So tonight we're starting a new topic. Andrea, could you please read the first question for us? 481.
Convulsionaries. Do spirits play any role in the phenomena produced among individuals called convulsionaries? Yes, a very large one. As does magnetism is its primary source, but charlatanism has frequently exploited and exaggerated the phenomena, thereby making them appear to be ridiculous. In general, what nature are these spirits who occur in these types of phenomena?
Yeah, sorry, because that's a long comment.
It's not a
No, just on that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, another version.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay, I will read that.
Just read that one again, please.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the,
Oh, yeah, I
other
got
part
it.
at the bottom.
They-
But
it's- so
that's
it's-
not of that.
That's the meaning of convulsionary.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
it's just the beginning.
Oh, okay, okay.
On the very bottom of your page. You have
Kardec's interest in explaining this phenomenon arises from cases he had knowledge of personally, such as the conversionaries of Saint Mettard. Father Francis Ferris died in 1727 and was buried at Saint Mettard Cemetery. His brother built him a little tomb to which people came to pray. A few cures were produced there, which were considered miraculous, and some convulsions occurred, which were considered dangerous and silly. The cemetery was closed in 1732. See La Revue Spiritism. The Ursuline nuns of London, 1632 to 34. Several nuns of the convent, including the Mother Superior, were seized with violent convulsions, symptoms of catalepsy, and demonic possession. Blasphemies and obscenities poured from their mouths and were believed to have come from the devil. Nando Fodor.
And now is a follow-up question.
In general, of what nature are these spirits who occur in these types of phenomena? They are little evolved. Do you believe that evolved spirits would enjoy such things?
482. How can the abnormal state of convulsionaries and hysterical person suddenly extend to an entire population? By sympathetic effect, by sympathetic effect, mental disposition communicate more easily in certain cases. You are not sure, you are not such a stranger to the effects of magnetism that you cannot understand this fact and the role certain spirits play in it through their sympathy with those who cause it. Carry on.
Yeah.
Among the remarkable facilities noted in the convulsionaries, we easily recognize some of which somnambulism and mesmerism offer numerous examples, such are among others physical intensivity, mind readings, empathetic transmission of pain, and etc. Thus, it cannot be doubted that such individuals in crisis are in type of awakened somnambulist state caused by the influence they exert on one another. They are both magnetizers and magnetized at the same time without even realizing it. The spirits are referring to Kardec's extensive studies, of magnetism, to which he dedicated himself before Spiritism.
Guilherme, do you
Yeah. But the cause of the physical insensitivity displayed both among certain convulsionaries and among other individuals submitted to most atrocious tortures. Among some, it's an exclusive magnetic effect acting on the nervous system in the same manner as certain substances. Among others, the exaltation of thoughts deadens sensitivities because life seems to have withdrawn from the body in order to be transferred to the spirit. Don't you know that when the spirit intensely concerned with something the body does not feel, hear, or see? In case of torture, fanatic exaltation and and enthusiasm often offer an example of calmness and cool-bloodedness in which acute pain could not have been overcome unless one were to accept the fact that the sensitivity had been neutralized by some kind of anesthetic effect. We know that frequently in the heat of combat, a grave wound is often not felt at all, whereas under normal circumstances, an ordinary scratch causes tears. Since this phenomenon depends on the physical cause and the action of certain spirit, one may ask you how. One may ask how, in some cases, it rested on civil authorities to put a stop to them. The reason is simple. The action of spirit spheres is secondary. They do nothing more than take advantage of natural disposition. The authorities did not suppress the disposition itself, but rather they caused, they maintained it and excited it, which then went from active to latent. They had reason to act this way because the event resulted in abuse and scandal. We know, furthermore, that such intervention is powerless when the action of a spirit is direct and spontaneous.
We'll probably stop there. Lots of things in this part. Does anybody wanted to start with the comments?
So it's a very specific subject, and it's interesting how emerged a little bit of what we have studied before about somnambulism, about some sort of trance and ecstasy and exposures, and we also talk about charlatanism, where maybe potentially back on then they did not have the knowledge we have right now towards medicine, towards the mind, towards the brain, towards the body, and they start to give denotations or reasoning that belong to the supernatural for people having convulsions, convulsionary events, and things like that. But it's also really interesting that they mention the magnetism a lot and how that can actually play a big part on a body that has a potential organic disposition for something to happen. The magnetism can actually influence your body in certain ways. And he explains that, but again, explores more the fact that could potentially be something not so common to actually the charlatanism of people just blaming or possessed by a demon, that's why I'm doing this, that's why I'm doing that, which is potentially much easier way to explain why you don't have good morals, right? You just blame the demon. That would be a bit easier, right?
Yeah.
What else?
One thing that I find interesting is that he's saying that sometimes is related to this kind of thing, sometimes is charlatanism. And one thing that it's not saying here, but we've been seeing on other questions as well, is that nowadays we know that there are diseases. And I know that there are a lot of influence from evil spirits, but they are causing something harmful to our body. So I know that it's saying a lot of times that we need to do good, we need to think good thoughts to get over or to break that relationship with those evil spirits. But we need to search for help as well, because nowadays we have medicine that can cut or decrease these effects and can help or make the person more available to turn around and start doing good or start getting better, but they need help. not just with the moral side, so be someone there to support, but they need like medicine as well. And we know that a lot of all those cases, we have medicines that here they were invented, they were given from the spirit world to us to make those kind of things, make it like the transition being easier. So sometimes people need to go through that relationship. They need to, because of things that happens on other lives, you have that relationship with another spirit, and they're here trying to break you, to make you fail. And then we have that medicine to make sure that you have strength to go through that. So we need both sides, both the material world with the medicine and the spiritual world with treatment, with like changing the way that you're thinking so you can, I don't know the word, to go away from that spirit.
We do have some mental blockers that block some sort of enzymes and triggers that are currently happening in the body, right? I know we're talking about convulsionary states, but these days mental health is a big thing, right? And it's probably the 21st century challenge that we have right now, where there are only a very few diseases that we're still working on, that we still haven't found a cure for it, but we are in a much better position than in 150 years ago. But these days, mental health, that's something really hard. That is not a pill that you take and, oh, I'm not in depression anymore. So it's a whole process, it's a whole habit and influence, like you say, right?
Yeah, and I would say besides the medicine, it's important to understand the phenomenon and everything involved in this kind of connection. Know them ourselves as much as possible, and to apparently we are always in control of any situation. And the last point is try to be connected to good thoughts, good energy, good spirits, and good companies. I think to prevent this kind of conversionary
Triggers, yeah.
Beginning from the end where we stopped, he's mentioning in the very last in the very last page that Kardec was studying phenomena of magnetism, conducting states of studies in magnetism, and we got to remember that in the 1800s we have mesmerism and magnetism, and there were phenomena that were across Europe exposed as something extraordinary and supernatural, and he was dedicated to himself studying those phenomena, and then the spirits come to say, it is not all is magnetism, not all is spiritual, so you have a combination here that we can apply this day. Not everything is spiritual and not everything is medical, so we got to be careful to not think that all sort of reactions that we have in our body or our nervous system is related to spirit, but there is a very large part of it that plays. Especially if you go to the first question, Kardec explore this part of it in the Legions book, where he talks about some scenarios and cases where a gentleman used to be exposed to some ridiculous acts of throwing himself on the floor and convulsions because he was being subjugado or dominated by another spirit. And there was a case of convulsion in some cases as well of epilepsy. It's highly related to the same principle. There are spiritualist doctors in Brazil, and they are taking seriously the correlation between epilepsy and the influence of the spirits. So, so I think there's a lot of things to learn from this, and a lot more to study.
It's a disconnection, right, between the spiritual and the medicine. They think one thing doesn't really connect another. When we actually, spirits can influence so much of things that we do here. And that's, the voice, for example, is always a great example. the voice you guys can hear right now, it's mine, but it's my vocal cords are vibrating the atoms of the air, and that's why you can hear my voice the way you can hear my voice. So that's actually something super simple, and spirits can influence that. Can just influence those molecules to just move around and create noise and create a voice. There is so many little details that we avoid based on the fact that it's supernatural, when in fact everything is natural. Nothing is about nature, right?
That's right. And just as a reminder, a friend of ours, Dr. João Madeira, reminded us when he was lecturing here in our group that the World Health Organization has now, well, recognized the possession, and it's a disease. So we are slowly getting there.
Yeah, very nice.
It is slowly coming together, even conservatism as well in the latest medicine and spirituality. That there are many scientists, researchers, they confirming like the spirituality, not specifically spiritism, but spirituality in many of the diseases and many of the researches as well. So we are getting there. Of course, it will take a long time, but it's definitely, as you guys said, a matter of trying to find the balance. Of course, the balance is really hard, but we try to to get that balance and not consider everything just coming from a spiritual consequence or a spiritual influence or a material one. And but always remember that regardless of the influence, we have our free will, and the decision is ours. In the end of the day, we decide what are our thoughts, our feelings, and what influence we are receiving.
Exactly, the gaps that we are leaving open to receive the influence. So something to
We can't blame the others.
Absolutely.
No, we can blame incarnated or discarnated. We can blame them for our faults. We gotta take our responsibility.
I have a really good friend that she's really into astrology. And sometimes we will talk and I say, oh, I'm not feeling really well today. She goes, oh, it's because of Mars. And I say, no, it's because I didn't sleep well.
Yeah.
Or it's my fault, I'll take it, responsibility for my shit actions. It's not the planet, it's not Pluto, it's me.
Exactly.
Truly.
We gotta take responsibility. Right? Thank you very much, guys, for all the comments, for all the participation. It was really good. We can then take with us everything. Some nice music, please. So now is our opportunity to do some rendition. Let's try to sit in a comfortable position. Let the music involve our minds, our soul. Let's unite our thoughts, our feelings, and together, let's vibrate. Let's start with our beautiful planet, that beautiful spoon where we have the opportunity to test ourselves. Let's involve the planet Earth in beautiful colors, beautiful fluids of peace, of harmony, and understanding. Let's especially take our consolation to the places that are suffering the most, maybe by the war, maybe by sickness. Let's also take our vibration of kindness and faith to those that are sick in the hospitals. or even at their places or on the street. Let's take our hope so they can be reminded that suffering is temporary and better days will come in the right time. Let's also vibrate for the orphanages where the little kids doesn't have parents at the moment. Also taking our faith and hope to them. Let's remember our brothers and sisters that passed away and are maybe a bit confused at the moment. Let's hope that they can be guided to some understanding and explanations so they can see that life goes on and it's a new chapter and new opportunities starting. Let's now think about those that are closer to us in our lives, our family members. Doesn't matter if they are far away or nearby, we can always be linked by the ties of love with them. Let's take to them our best fluids of love. Also vibrate that for people that we work with or live with as well. And using this benefic fluids, we especially think about someone that we know is in need at the moment. Let's take our best fluids of courage, of hope, so they can overcome their challenges. Let's then open our hearts and minds so we can receive in us all this positivity so we can share everywhere we go and spread them. Now, would you like to say thank you very much for this opportunity of this meeting? Thank you for all the lessons learned. Thank you for being in this very positive environment at the moment. Then we can all go home in peace and meet again next time. And then we ask permission to God, Jesus, and our spiritual guides to finish another Allan Kardec meeting. Thank you. So good. Thank you, everybody. And we see you again next week.
Thanks, Marnie.